The year was 2247. Humanity had finally reached beyond Earth. 3 million people now lived on Mars. Mining stations on Europa pulled resources from the icy moon. After decades of war and struggle, Earth had united under one government. Peace had come at last, and the future looked bright. Commander Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the Valiant. He was running a normal patrol near Jupiter. His crew of 200 had been watching deep space for months. Nothing unusual ever happened out here. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. That changed when the sensors started screaming. Something massive had just appeared out of nowhere. The computer said it had come from faster-than-light travel, but the readings made no sense. Nothing that big should be able to move. The screen showed a ship that made Jack's blood run cold. It was 15 kilometers long. Weapons covered every surface. The Valiant could fit inside it 1,000 times. Behind it, 12 more ships appeared, each one big enough to destroy a city with a single shot. A message came through. It bypassed all of Earth's security like it was nothing. The face on the screen was not human. Golden scales covered reptilian features. The eyes burned with cold intelligence. This creature had seen centuries pass by. Primitive creatures of Earth, I am Emperor Varix of the Drathian Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our dominion. You have 72 of your hours to surrender unconditionally. Comply, and your species will be allowed to serve. Resist, and you will be eliminated. There will be no negotiation. The message ended. Jack tried to respond, but the channel was already closed. Within seconds, every device on Earth, Mars, and all the colonies received the same message. Panic spread across human civilization like wildfire. On Earth, President Kyle Harrison called an emergency meeting. Military leaders, scientists, and officials gathered in the underground command center in Geneva. Nobody spoke much. The silence was heavy with fear. Admiral Lisa Chen pulled up the numbers. Earth had 37 warships. They were built to protect colonies and deflect asteroids. Against the alien fleet, they would last maybe 4 minutes. The alien shields alone could stop anything humanity could throw at them. We cannot win a direct fight, Lisa said quietly. Our weapons are toys compared to theirs. If we fight, we die. If we surrender, we become slaves. Those are our only choices. Kyle looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some wanted to surrender and hope for mercy. Others wanted to fight and die with dignity. Nobody had a good answer. Then a quiet voice spoke from the back. We have one option. It is dangerous. It might kill us all. But if you want to fight, I can give you a weapon. Dr. Nathan Cross stepped forward. He was a thin man with tired eyes. For the past 10 years, he had worked on a secret project that most people thought was a waste of money. His team studied quantum mechanics and tried to build weapons that bent the rules of physics. Project Erebus has created something called the Cascade Drive, Nathan explained. It is not a normal weapon. It attacks the enemies faster than light engines. The more advanced their technology, the worse the effect. It will tear their ships apart from the inside. Kyle leaned forward. What is the catch? A ship must get within 10,000 kilometers to use it. The device has a 93% chance of killing everyone on board. Even if it works, the crew will have maybe 30 seconds to escape before the reaction destroys everything nearby. The room went silent. Someone would have to volunteer for a suicide mission. Someone would have to fly directly into the alien fleet knowing they would probably die. How long until it is ready? Kyle asked. 18 hours. We are already installing it on the Valiant. Commander Morrison has volunteered his ship. Jack Morrison had not hesitated when they asked him. He knew what it meant. His crew knew too. When word spread about the mission, Jack expected people to leave. Instead, 400 volunteers from across the fleet asked to join him. He could only take 50 more people. Choosing who would live and who would die was the hardest thing he had ever done. Sergeant Ryan Cole was one of the volunteers. He was a combat engineer who had survived the Mars Rebellion. He knew how to fix things when everything was falling apart. Corporal Holly Sanders joined too. She was the best weapons officer in the fleet. Dr. Beth Martinez insisted on coming. She had helped build the Cascade Drive and wanted to see it through to the end. On Mars, Governor Derek Walsh prepared for the worst. He ordered the evacuation of surface cities. 2 million people moved into underground tunnels. The remaining million refused to leave. They formed militia units and prepared to fight with mining equipment and whatever weapons they could make. Emperor Varix watched the human preparations from his flagship, the Sovereign Death. His tactical officer reported that the humans were moving their tiny fleet into defensive positions around Earth. "They plan to fight," the officer said with something like respect. "Most species simply surrender when they see our power." Varix waved a clawed hand. "Their bravery means nothing. We have conquered species with technology 1,000 years ahead of these primitives. When the deadline ends, destroy their ships. Make it quick. The survivors will be easier to control after they watch their protectors die." Back on the Valiant, Jack gathered his crew. They stood in the cargo bay looking at the Cascade Drive. It was a dark metal sphere 10 meters across, covered in cooling systems and power cables. It hummed with barely contained energy. Just looking at it made Jack's teeth hurt. "I will not lie to you," Jack began. "We probably will not survive this. The scientists give us a 7% chance of living. But if we succeed, we save Earth. We save humanity. That is worth dying for." Nobody moved. Nobody asked to leave. They had all made their choice. Nathan found Jack alone after the briefing. The scientist looked exhausted. The alien fleet moved forward with perfect precision. 12 massive warships advanced in formation. Their weapons began to glow with power. Behind them, Emperor Varix's flagship waited. He was so confident that he did not even bother joining the attack. The first shots came without warning. Beams of pure energy crossed the empty space. Each one carried the power of a nuclear bomb. They hit the outer layer of human ships with terrible force. The Guardian exploded instantly. Its shields could not stop the beam. The Phoenix managed to fire back before a second beam cut through its hull. Air and crew were thrown into the void. Admiral Lisa Chen watched from the command center in Geneva. Her face showed no emotion, but inside she felt sick. 5 ships destroyed in 30 seconds. The human weapons did nothing. Missiles exploded harmlessly against alien shields. Bullets that could punch through asteroids bounced off alien armor without leaving a mark. "Second wave, focus all fire on the lead ship," Lisa ordered. Her voice stayed steady even as she watched people die. "All ships, attack pattern Delta 7. The remaining human ships concentrated their weapons on one alien vessel. For a moment, hope flickered. The combined firepower made the alien shields ripple and flash. Then the alien ship simply rotated, showing a fresh shield on a different side. The attack became useless again. The aliens fired back with cold efficiency. They did not waste shots. Each beam was perfectly aimed to cause maximum damage. The Ranger was cut in half. The striker dodged 2 beams before the third caught it in the middle. The explosion was so violent that burning debris fell into Earth's atmosphere like shooting stars. On the Valiant, Jack Morrison kept his ship powered down. He drifted among the wreckage of destroyed human vessels. His crew sat silent at their stations. They watched the slaughter unfold on their screens. Every instinct told Jack to join the fight, to die with honor beside his friends. But he had a mission. "Steady," he whispered. "Not yet." Ryan Cole watched the Cascade Drive from the engineering section. The device was ready. Its quantum systems were aligned and stable. They just needed to get close enough. But getting close meant surviving long enough to reach the aliens, and the alien targeting was frighteningly accurate. The second layer of defense engaged as the alien ships pushed deeper toward Earth. These were smaller, faster ships designed for hit-and-run attacks. They attacked from multiple angles, trying to distract the aliens. Their weapons pecked away at shields that healed faster than the damage could build up. Captain Greg Turner commanded the Falcon, one of the fastest ships in the fleet. He led 6 small ships in a flanking attack, trying to draw fire away from the heavier vessels. His tactics were perfect. His skill was extraordinary. It did not matter. The aliens split their formation. 3 warships chased Turner's squadron while the others continued toward Earth. The chase lasted 90 seconds. Then the alien weapons found their targets. The Falcon came apart in a ball of fire. The rest of the squadron followed within seconds. 23 human ships destroyed, 14 left alive. On Mars, Derek Walsh watched the battle feed. His hands shook with rage and fear. The alien fleet would reach Earth within the hour. After that, they would turn to the colonies. His militia had no chance against weapons that could burn a planet from orbit. In Geneva, President Kyle Harrison stood beside Admiral Chen. His face was pale. How long until the Valiant can attack? They need to be within 10,000 kilometers. Current distance is 200,000. If Commander Morrison moves now, he will be seen and destroyed before he gets close enough. And if he waits, there might not be anything left to save. Kyle closed his eyes. The weight of billions of lives pressed down on him. Every second he waited, more people died. Every second he delayed, the mission became more difficult. Tell Morrison to move now. It is our only chance. On the Valiant, Jack received the order. He looked at his crew and saw determination in their eyes. Amy, power up the engines. Ryan, prepare to activate the cascade drive on my mark. Everyone else, strap in. This will be rough. The Valiant's engines roared to life. Immediately, alien sensors locked onto the ship. Jack pushed the engines to maximum power. The old patrol vessel shook as it accelerated toward the enemy fleet. Warning alarms screamed as weapons locked onto them. Incoming fire, Holly Sanders called out. 12 seconds to impact. Evasive pattern Omega, Jack ordered. His hands flew across the controls. The Valiant twisted through space. Its maneuvering jets fired in patterns that would have torn apart a weaker ship. The first energy beam missed by 300 meters. The second caught the Valiant on its left side. Even though it was only a partial hit, it destroyed the entire sensor array. The ship tumbled out of control. Alarms shrieked as holes opened in the hull. "Seal those sections!" Jack shouted over the noise. "Beth, how is our weapon?" "Cascade drive is stable," the physicist reported calmly. "But we took damage to the cooling system. We have maybe 5 minutes before it overheats." 5 minutes. They were still 60,000 kilometers from the target range. Jack did the math and felt his heart sink. They were not going to make it. Then Amy grabbed his arm. "Sir, look." The remaining human ships had broken formation. All 14 of them were moving toward the Valiant. They placed themselves between Jack's ship and the alien fleet. It was a suicide run, and everyone knew it. Admiral Chen's voice came through the radio. "Valiant, this is command. Focus on your mission. We will buy you the time you need." Jack watched through tears as Earth's last defenders threw themselves at the alien warships. They fought with desperate fury. Damaged ships rammed into enemy vessels. Nuclear warheads exploded at point-blank range. Everything was sacrificed for a few more seconds. The Liberty, commanded by Captain Claire Rodriguez, crashed directly into an alien shield generator. The explosion did not destroy the alien ship, but the shields flickered for a moment. 2 other human ships scored hits on the armor beneath. The aliens' return fire was devastating, but humanity had drawn blood. One by one, Earth's defenders died, but they died buying distance for the Valiant, and Jack Morrison would not waste their sacrifice. 50,000 kilometers, Amy reported. 40,000, 30,000. The Cascade Drive's temperature warning turned red. They had May for 3 seconds. Nothing happened. The Cascade Drive hummed inside the Valiant, but there was no flash of light. No explosion, no visible effect. The alien ships continued their attack. The last pieces of human defenders still fought their losing battle. On Earth, billions held their breath and waited. Then reality began to break. Dr. Beth Martinez stared at her instruments with wide eyes. The Cascade Drive was doing something that should not be possible. It was reaching into the basic structure of space itself, finding the tiny tears that faster-than-light travel created. Every ship that traveled faster than light had to punch a hole in normal space. They traveled through higher dimensions where the rules of physics were different. But those holes left scars behind, tiny imperfections in reality that never fully healed. The Cascade Drive found those scars and ripped them wide open. On the alien warship, Conquest's Pride, Commander Kellor was the first to notice something wrong. His sensor officer reported a strange reading near the damaged human vessel. Before he could investigate, the ship's faster-than-light drive began to fail. It started with a vibration. Small at first, then growing into violent shaking that rattled through the entire ship. Kellor ordered an emergency shutdown of the drive, but it was already too late. The quantum tunnel that allowed faster-than-light travel had reversed. Instead of letting the ship pierce reality, reality was now piercing the ship. The Conquest's Pride tore itself apart from the inside. Metal twisted into shapes that should not exist. Crew members vanished as they were folded through angles that human mathematics could not describe. Within 30 seconds, the 15-kilometer warship had compressed into a ball barely 100 meters across. Then it simply stopped existing, leaving behind only a shimmer of radiation. The effect spread through the alien fleet like a plague. Each ship's faster-than-light drive acted as an amplifier, making the quantum disruption stronger and passing it to nearby vessels. The second warship lasted a bit longer. Its better shields bought an extra minute before the spatial collapse consumed it. The crew of the third ship managed to evacuate in escape pods, but the pods had their own small, faster-than-light drives. The Cascade caught them too. On the Valiant, alarms screamed. The reaction was spreading faster than Nathan Cross had predicted. The quantum disruption was feeding on itself, growing exponentially with each ship it destroyed. "We need to run now," Beth shouted over the chaos. "The reaction radius is expanding. I estimate 12 minutes until it reaches Earth's orbit." Jack was already moving. His hands flew across the controls. The Valiant's engines, pushed beyond their limits, roared to life, but the ship was badly damaged. Half its maneuvering jets were destroyed. The explosion had knocked them into a tumbling spin. "Amy, I need attitude control," Jack said urgently. "Working on it," his second officer replied. Sweat ran down her face as she manually rerouted power through damaged systems. "Ryan, dump all unnecessary power to the engines." In engineering, Ryan Cole did not hesitate. He shut down life support in damaged sections. He killed the artificial gravity. He diverted every spare watt of power to the engines. The Valiant shuddered and groaned like a dying animal, but it accelerated. Slowly, painfully, it pulled away from the expanding zone of destruction. Behind them, the alien fleet was dying. 11 warships had already been consumed. The 12th tried desperately to disconnect its faster-than-light drive before the Cascade could reach it. The engineering crew worked with frantic speed, but physics does not care about determination. The drive core exploded, taking half the ship with it. The spatial disruption consumed the rest. On the Sovereign Death, Emperor Varix finally understood that he had badly underestimated these primitives. His ancient vessel, built with technology from a civilization that had mastered faster-than-light travel 10,000 years ago, began to shake as the Cascade found its incredibly complex network of quantum tunnels. "Evacuate the ship," Varix ordered. His voice was tight with barely controlled rage. "All personnel to the conventional drive escape vessels. Move now!" His crew scrambled to obey, but the Sovereign Death was massive. It was designed to carry an army. There was not enough time to evacuate everyone. Thousands of crew members were still on board when Varix reached his personal escape ship. It was a sleek craft powered by normal engines rather than faster than light technology. He launched just as the flagship began its death throes. Through the window, he watched his empire's most powerful vessel twist and fold like paper in fire. The Sovereign Death had been the pride of the Drathian military. It had led the conquest of 100 worlds. Now it was being unmade by the laws of physics, and there was nothing Varix could do but watch and rage. The spatial collapse reached its peak. A sphere of impossible geometry spread across 10,000 kilometers of space. Ships that had ruled galaxies simply ceased to exist. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the reaction started to fade. Without new faster-than-light drives to feed on, the quantum disruption began to collapse back into normal space. On the Valiant, Beth Martinez watched her readings with disbelief. "It is stabilizing. The cascade is burning itself out." Jack did not slow down. He kept the Valiant at maximum speed, not trusting the readings until they were well clear of the danger zone. His ship had taken terrible damage. Life support was failing in half the sections. The cascade drive itself was a melted ruin, never to be used again. But they were alive. "Casualty report," he ordered quietly. Amy's voice was heavy with grief. 47 dead, another 33 injured. Sections 7 through 14 are completely destroyed. Jack closed his eyes. They had started with 200 crew members. They had succeeded, but the price had been steep. Nearly a quarter of his people were gone. On Earth, President Kyle Harrison stood in the command center. He stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. Where 13 alien warships had been, there was now nothing, just empty space and fading energy signatures. The human fleet was gone too, sacrificed to buy the Valiant its chance. "Did we win?" someone asked quietly. Admiral Lisa Chen checked the long-range scans. "The alien fleet is destroyed. We are detecting some escape pods and smaller craft, but nothing with serious weapons." A cheer erupted in the command center. People embraced each other and cried. They had done the impossible. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. Against all odds, against superior technology and overwhelming force, they had won. But Chen was not celebrating. She was looking at a different reading, one that made her blood run cold. "Mr. President, we have a problem." She enhanced the image on the main screen. There, at the edge of the solar system, a massive shape was dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Then another appeared, and another, and another. "What am I looking at?" Kyle asked. Though he already knew the answer, in Emperor Varix's escape pod, docked with a surviving support vessel. It was a small ship that had been far enough from the cascade to avoid destruction. He stormed onto the bridge, his scales dark with rage. He demanded a status report immediately. "The Second Fleet has arrived, my lord," his new tactical officer reported nervously. "Fleet Admiral Draxus is demanding to know what happened here." Varix's claws dug into the metal console, leaving deep scratches. In one battle, these primitives had destroyed the Sovereign Death and 12 warships. An entire battle group gone. It was a loss that would echo across the Empire, a humiliation that could cost him his throne. He opened a channel to Fleet Admiral Draxus. "The humans possess a weapon that attacks faster than light drives. It creates a spatial cascade that tears ships apart from the inside. Every vessel with an active drive is vulnerable." There was a long pause. When Draxus spoke, his voice was ice cold. "You lost the First Fleet to primitives who barely have space travel?" "They are more dangerous than they appear," Varix said through gritted teeth. "But they have revealed their weapon. Now we know how to defend against it. We simply disable our faster-than-light drives during combat and maintain distance." The weapon becomes useless. On Earth, Nathan Cross had reached the same conclusion. He stood before the Global Defense Council, exhaustion evident in every movement. The Cascade drive worked better than we hoped, but we can only use it once. The prototype is destroyed. We lost most of the research data when the Valiant's computers were damaged. Even if we could rebuild it, the aliens now know what to expect. President Kyle Harrison leaned forward. Can we make more? If we had a fleet equipped with these weapons? We do not have time, Nathan interrupted. It took 10 years to build the first one. We had to develop entirely new theories of physics. The alien reinforcements will be here in 3 days. We cannot build another Cascade drive in 3 days. We cannot build one in 3 months. The room sank into despair. They had used their only advantage, and while it had been spectacularly effective, it was not enough. The aliens would come back prepared, and Earth would fall. But Admiral Lisa Chen was studying the battle data with a thoughtful look. What if we are thinking about this wrong? We cannot beat them in a straight fight. We do not need to. We just need to make conquering Earth more trouble than it is worth. She pulled up a map of the solar system. The aliens are used to easy victories. They show up, overwhelm the defenses, and the population surrenders within days. But what if we do not surrender? What if we make them fight for every planet, every moon, every rock in space? Kyle frowned. You are talking about guerrilla warfare in space. How do we fight without warships? We have ships, Chen replied. Not warships, but we have thousands of civilian vessels, cargo haulers, mining ships, colony transports, passenger liners. We convert them into improvised weapons platforms, hit-and-run attacks, sabotage, anything to make them bleed, and we have one more advantage. She brought up readings from the Cascade event. When the quantum disruption was at its peak, it blocked all electromagnetic communications within its radius. The aliens could not coordinate or call for help. If we can recreate that effect on a smaller scale... Nathan's eyes widened with sudden understanding. A quantum jammer. We could not destroy their ships, but we could blind them, isolate them, make each vessel fight alone without support. Over the next 3 days, humanity prepared for a kind of war they had never imagined. Every spacecraft that could mount a weapon was brought in for modifications. Mining lasers became cutting beams. Industrial tools became weapons. Even magnetic cargo clamps were turned into boarding equipment. The weapons would not be very effective against alien armor, but they did not need to be. The goal was harassment, delay, attrition. Make the invaders pay for every meter of space. Nathan Cross and his team worked without sleep to build quantum jammers. They were crude devices compared to the Cascade drive, but they could disrupt faster than light communication over a limited area. 12 jammers were constructed and hidden throughout the solar system, ready to activate the moment the alien fleet arrived. On Mars, Derek Walsh organized the militia into guerrilla teams. They could not fight a fleet in open space, but if alien forces landed, they would find every street, every tunnel, every building turned into a death trap. The Martian colonists had spent generations learning to survive in the most hostile environment humans had ever settled. They would teach the aliens that humans were the most dangerous thing in the solar system. Jack Morrison, recovered enough to walk despite his injuries, volunteered to command the converted civilian fleet. Hundreds of ships joined him. None were designed for combat. They were crewed by miners, cargo haulers, and colonists who had never fired a weapon in anger. They were given a brief training in basic tactics and sent to staging points throughout Earth's orbital space. When the alien Second Fleet arrived, they found a solar system that appeared defeated. Every human military vessel was destroyed. The few ships they detected were clearly civilian craft. Fleet Admiral Draxus, commanding from his warship Endless Conquest, was pleased. This would be a simple cleanup operation. "Disable all faster-than-light drives as ordered," Draxus commanded. "Standard approach on conventional engines. We will bombard their military installations from orbit, then demand surrender." This will be over in hours. The 64 alien capital ships advanced on normal thrusters, their weapons ready. They expected the humans to flee or beg for mercy. Instead, the civilian fleet attacked. It was chaos. Cargo haulers accelerated to ramming speed, their holds packed with every explosive humans could manufacture. Mining ships fired industrial lasers that could not penetrate alien armor but could blind sensors and disable targeting systems. Colony transports launched every missile, torpedo, and improvised bomb they carried. Passenger liners rammed into alien ships at full speed, their crews abandoning ship at the last second in escape pods. The aliens destroyed them easily, but there were so many. For every ship destroyed, 2 more appeared from different angles. And then the quantum jammers activated across the solar system. Suddenly, the alien fleet could not communicate. Each ship was isolated, fighting its own battle, unable to coordinate with nearby vessels or call for reinforcements. Jack Morrison's ship, a converted ore hauler he had renamed the Defiance, led 12 vessels in an attack run on the endless conquest. They knew they could not destroy the massive warship, but they could damage it, slow it down, force it to waste ammunition on targets that were not worth the effort. "All ships attack pattern Alpha," Jack commanded. "Hit them fast and hard, then get out before they can lock weapons on us." The Defiance shuddered as its improvised weapons fired. Mining lasers scored black marks across the alien armor. Alien return fire vaporized 3 of Jack's ships instantly. But the survivors pressed the attack. A converted fuel tanker rammed the Endless Conquest's shield generator. The explosion rippled across the protective barrier, weakening it for precious seconds. All across the solar system, similar battles raged. It was not elegant or efficient, but it was costing the aliens time, ammunition, and patience. Every hour they spent fighting pushed back their invasion timeline. Every ship they destroyed, even though they killed 10 human vessels in return, was a resource they could not easily replace. Fleet Admiral Draxus stared at the tactical display with growing frustration. His fleet had been fighting for 8 days. 8 days against primitives who barely understood faster than light travel. His forces had destroyed over 400 human vessels, but the attacks continued without end. Every time his ships moved toward Earth, converted civilian craft would swarm them like insects. Mining lasers that could not penetrate armor still damaged sensors and communication arrays. Ramming attacks forced his ships to waste energy on shields. The quantum jammers made coordination nearly impossible. His fleet was scattered across the solar system, each group fighting independently. And the humans showed no sign of surrender, no sign of fear. They just kept coming, wave after wave, dying by the hundreds but never breaking. His second-in-command approached cautiously. "Admiral, we have lost 3 more ships." The humans packed a cargo hauler with fusion reactors and detonated it next to the Crimson Fang. The explosion breached the hull in 17 locations. Draxus slammed his fist on the console. 3 ships lost. Against an enemy that should have been crushed in hours. Emperor Varix had been right. These humans were far more dangerous than they appeared. "What are our casualty numbers?" he asked. 8 ships destroyed completely. 15 more with significant damage requiring repair. Crew losses exceed 4,000. Ammunition reserves are down to 60%. If we continue at this rate, we will need to withdraw for resupply within 2 weeks. Draxus made his decision. He had not risen to command the Second Fleet by being foolish. This invasion was becoming too costly. The humans had no ships left that could threaten his fleet directly, but they were bleeding him with 1,000 small cuts. And every day he remained, more species across the galaxy heard about humanity's resistance. "Send a message to Emperor Varix," Draxus ordered. "Earth is too heavily defended to conquer without significant losses. I recommend we establish a blockade and isolate the system rather than attempt ground invasion. Let them starve in their own solar system. Eventually, they will have no choice but to negotiate." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Chen noticed the change first. The alien attacks had stopped. The fleet was pulling back, moving to positions at the edge of the solar system. They were not leaving, but they were not invading either. "They are establishing a blockade," she told President Kyle Harrison. "They will try to cut us off from any future expansion. No ships in or out. They want to contain us." Kyle felt relief wash through him, followed immediately by concern. "We survived, but we are trapped in our own solar system." "For now," Lisa agreed, "but we are alive. We have time. Time to rebuild, time to research, time to prepare for the next confrontation. And Kyle, look at this." She pulled up communication intercepts from across the galaxy. Dozens of species were talking about Earth, about the humans who had defied the Empire, about the weapon that destroyed an entire fleet, about the guerrilla war that forced a second fleet to retreat. "We have become a symbol," Lisa explained. "Species that have been enslaved by the Empire for centuries are seeing that resistance is possible. 3 alien worlds have already begun small rebellions. The Empire is having to divert forces to deal with unrest. We did more than save Earth. We may have started a revolution." Jack Morrison stood in the observation deck of the repaired Valiant, looking out at Earth. The planet showed scars from the battle. Orbital debris littered the space around it, but the blue and green world was still there, still alive, still free. Amy Parker joined him, her injuries healed. "The government wants to give you a medal. They are calling you the savior of humanity." Jack shook his head. "The real heroes are dead. Every pilot who rammed an alien ship, every crew that stayed at their post while their vessel came apart around them, every colonist who fought with mining equipment against weapons that could glass planets. They saved us." "You gave them hope," Amy said quietly. "You showed them it was possible to win. That matters." Below them, construction yards were already building new ships. Not civilian vessels converted to weapons this time, but actual warships designed from the beginning for combat. Engineers were studying every piece of wreckage from the alien fleet, learning from their technology. Scientists were working on new weapons, new defenses, new ways to fight. On Mars, Derek Walsh watched the alien blockade fleet through telescopes. They sat at the edge of the solar system, waiting. He knew they would return eventually with better tactics and more ships. But humanity would be ready. The colonies were expanding their underground networks, building hidden weapons caches, training every citizen in combat. Nathan Cross worked in his laboratory, surrounded by salvaged alien technology. The Cascade Drive had been a one-time weapon, but it had taught him valuable lessons about quantum mechanics and spatial manipulation. He was already designing new devices, not weapons this time, but defensive systems. Ways to detect faster than light travel from light years away. Ways to shield Earth's ships from the quantum attacks the aliens might develop in response. Emperor Varix sat in his throne room, 10,000 light years from Earth. Reports of the defeat had spread across the Empire despite his efforts to suppress them. 3 subject worlds had rebelled. 2 more were showing signs of unrest. The humans had cost him more than just ships. They had cost him the illusion of invincibility. He pulled up intelligence reports on Earth. The humans were building, preparing, getting stronger with every passing day. The blockade would contain them for a while, but not forever. Eventually, they would break out, and when they did, they would be far more dangerous than they were now. Part of him wanted to gather every ship in the Empire and crush Earth once and for all. But another part, the part that had survived centuries of political warfare, whispered caution. The humans had already proven they could destroy fleets. What other weapons did they possess? What other tricks were they hiding? For the first time in his long life, Emperor Varix felt something he had not experienced in centuries: uncertainty. These primitives had made him doubt, and doubt was a poison that could topple empires. On Earth, President Kyle Harrison addressed the world. Billions watched as he spoke from the ruins of the Geneva Command Center, a deliberate choice to remind everyone of the cost they had paid. 3 weeks ago, an alien empire demanded our surrender. They believed we would submit or be destroyed. They were wrong. We fought. We bled. We lost thousands of ships and millions of brave souls. But we survived. Earth remains free. He paused, letting his words sink in. The aliens have retreated to the edge of our solar system. They have blockaded us, hoping to contain us. They believe we are trapped. They are wrong again. We are not trapped here with them. They are trapped out there with us. Cheers erupted across the planet. In cities and farms, in orbital stations and Martian colonies, humanity celebrated their survival. We have learned a hard lesson, Kyle continued. The universe beyond our solar system is hostile, but we have also learned that we can fight. We can win. The aliens have advanced technology, but we have something they do not. We have the will to be free. We have the courage to face impossible odds. We have the determination to never surrender. He looked directly into the camera. To any species watching this broadcast, to anyone living under the Empire's rule, we say this: resistance is possible. Freedom is possible. Earth stands as proof. We are human. We do not submit. We do not surrender. And we will never stop fighting for our right to exist as a free species. The transmission ended. Within hours, it had been intercepted and spread across a dozen star systems. Within days, it reached species that had lived under alien rule for generations. Within weeks, 5 more worlds had begun rebellions. The Empire had made a critical mistake. They had attacked humanity expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had created a legend. They had transformed Earth from an insignificant primitive world into a symbol of resistance that inspired an entire galaxy. Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Valiant, watching construction crews complete the final touches. This ship was not a converted patrol vessel. It was a true warship, built with human ingenuity and lessons learned from captured alien technology. It carried weapons that combined human innovation with alien science. It was twice as fast, 3 times as well armed, and carried a crew of 500 trained warriors. And it was just the first. Behind it, 12 more ships were under construction. Behind those, 50 more were planned. Humanity was building a fleet, and when it was ready, they would break the blockade. They would take the fight to the Empire. They would show the galaxy what humans could do when pushed to the edge of extinction. The alien emperor had demanded Earth submit. Humanity's response had wiped out his fleets and inspired a galaxy to rebellion. The Empire had started this war expecting a quick victory. What they got instead was an enemy that would not stop, would not surrender, would not accept slavery. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human expansion was beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same. Earth had sent its message to the stars, written in the wreckage of alien warships and the courage of those who refused to kneel. The message was clear and would echo across civilizations for generations to come. Humanity would not submit. Humanity would not surrender. And anyone who came for Earth had better be prepared to pay the price in blood, steel, and shattered fleets. The war was not over. It had only just begun. But humanity faced the future not with fear, but with determination. They had proven they could survive. Now they would prove they could win. The stars awaited, and humanity was ready, his far from their supply lines. On Earth, President Kyle Harrison watched the battle with grim satisfaction. How long can we maintain this? Based on current losses, maybe 2 weeks, Admiral Chen replied. Then we will have nothing left to fight with. Will it be enough? Chen pulled up communication data. The Cascade event was visible across half the galaxy. We are picking up transmissions from dozens of species. Some are afraid of what we did. Some are curious. But all of them saw that humanity destroyed an alien fleet. We proved the Empire can bleed. We proved they can be beaten. In space, Fleet Admiral Draxus faced an impossible decision. He could continue the invasion. He could grind down human resistance through pure attrition and eventually conquer Earth. But it would take months, maybe years. It would cost him dozens of ships and thousands of crew. And the longer he stayed, the more likely other species might see humanity's resistance and be inspired to rebel against the Empire. His gut. Alien reinforcements, Chen replied quietly. 64 capital ships. They must have detected the loss of the First Fleet and jumped in to investigate. The celebration died instantly. Everyone in the command center stared at the tactical display. They stared at the new fleet that was now accelerating toward Earth. The armada was even larger than the first one. More ships, more weapons, more death coming their way. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The aliens were coming back, and this time they would be ready for humanity's tricks. This time they would know about the Cascade Drive. This time they would be prepared. And humanity had just used its only weapon. The prototype was destroyed. The research data was lost. Earth's entire military fleet was gone. They had nothing left to fight with except courage, and courage alone would not stop 64 warships. Kyle Harrison looked around the command center at the exhausted, frightened faces of Earth's leaders. They had celebrated for 30 seconds before the next nightmare arrived. "Get me Commander Morrison on the line, and someone find Dr. Cross. We need options, and we need them now." Be 2 minutes before it failed completely. 20,000 kilometers. Jack, we are in range. Jack's hand moved to the activation switch. Through the window, he could see the massive shape of the Sovereign Death. Emperor Varrix's flagship hung in space, untouched and arrogant. The Emperor had not even bothered to move, so confident in his fleet's power. All around them, the last human ships were dying. The final defender, a cargo hauler called the Hope, was cut in half by an energy beam. Its crew of 30 vanished in an instant. Earth now had no military fleet, no protection, nothing but the Valiant and its experimental weapon. Jack thought about his family on Earth. He thought about the billions of people depending on him. He thought about the crew members who had volunteered knowing they would probably die. He thought about all the ships that had just sacrificed themselves to get him here. "For Earth," Jack whispered. "For humanity. For everyone we lost." He pressed the button, and the Cascade Drive activated. Ted. "There is something else you need to know. The Cascade Drive does not just affect ships. If the reaction gets out of control, it could tear a hole in space itself. It would create something worse than a black hole. It would consume the solar system within a week." Jack felt cold fear run through him. "Does the president know?" "Yes. He approved it anyway. If the aliens win, humanity ends. At least this way we deny them the prize." The final hours counted down. Earth ships took position around the planet in defensive layers. The Valiant hung back with its engines off, trying to look like a damaged ship that had been abandoned. It was a desperate trick, but the only way to get close enough to use the weapon. Across Earth, billions of people watched the sky. Some prayed for salvation. Others prayed for revenge. All of them prayed for their children. When the deadline expired, Emperor Varrix gave the order. Begin the attack. The battle for Earth was about to begin.